Alright guys, coming to the final day of the second week of July. Let's go through my week, let's talk through all the moves I took and also fundamental stuff. We didn't actually see that much, and this is why I didn't want to do a video day by day, because there wasn't really much going on. We could see that due to limited news, there was tariff talks to be finalised and Trump did put a lot of deals through. That didn't really move the market as much as I thought though, which is quite surprising because you could think all of that movement on EU and GU to the upside was all based on the tariffs. I would say overall, once the deals are settled, it's probably a good thing for the USD. I think finally we're seeing some deals, and obviously that means EU and GU might pull back quite a bit on the higher time frames. But yeah, we didn't really see too much. We just saw a couple of speeches, unemployment claims, and we do have GDP this morning for pounds. So really quiet week, probably the quietest week of the whole year so far in terms of news. And with that, with not too much fundamentals coming in as well, that's why we haven't seen too much movement, and the majority of it actually come on Monday morning. So overall, what was my bias for the week? You can see EU is still pushing up on the weekly time frame. We obviously had the start of the month wick past the previous monthly high, and we had a close above previous weekly high as well. So this candle isn't too strong. The wick is fairly big, but it's not bigger than the body. And I always look at the scenarios as, is the body big? Is the wick big? When you obviously see a bit of a bigger wick than the body, that means it could be setting up for some sort of pullback. But it looked alright for the continuations. We did create a weekly fair value gap, which I was looking at. So when I based my higher time frame positions in, I would say this is potentially a weekly confirmation. What I wanted to look at on the daily time frame though is when I was to set positions within maybe a 4 hour, if I was to set up the 4 hour leg, just to give you insights on how I view the market, I would view this as our leg, right? So if this is our 4 hour leg, what we did last week is we did push into this area last week. So the overall leg here, if we're going to go up, we should not be revisiting these areas. So based on a higher time frame pullback, I would discount this 4 hour leg. That means overall, I'm looking for previous weekly low to be cleared as a minimum. Therefore, I'd be looking into the weekly for entries. So it's really that simple. I'm just setting up entries within one off the start. We had a stop just past half of that weekly. And again, this is the way I trade. I don't really try and be perfect on where the entries are coming in. The reason being for that is I don't want to be dealing with a perfect entry when I'm trading higher time frames. A stop loss zone, which you set, and you can see what that is, it's to prove your trade is right. If we're going up, if I set a stop here, that means as long as we respect that, I will win the trade. I don't need to try and call how much it will pull back into this weekly just to get a big R. I really do prefer to have some breathing room with a trade. So that's the way I do it. I set another position at half, covering just below the weekly. So we did have about 60 pip stop on that one, targeting the high. They're my two positions, and I will obviously look for on the daily time frame, because we did see a bit of pullback. I'd be waiting to see a bullish engulfing candle, and that is the way I trade. It's really that simple. A lot of people ask me, how do I trade? Obviously, I use weekly liquidity. I use daily confirmations. I sometimes set trades within 4 hour fibs, daily fibs, but usually if I'm trading on a daily confirm midweek, I'd be setting up on a 1 hour fib, and I'm really looking for POIs within that to trade. That's my setup for the week on EU. Let's take this off because this was invalid. So yeah, I am looking for previous weekly low to be an inducement to see continued upside at the minute, because we don't have any clear direction to the downside. One thing I look at if we're coming down is I want to see a big rejection to the upside, and we did see that high get nipped there. There is potential for that to be a rejection, but we'd never closed below that candle low, so the wick low, sorry. Therefore, I don't really see enough. What I'd prefer to see is, we're seeing this pullback. I'd rather see a rejection, maybe sweep this high, get a strong bearish close, because that signifies a rejection to the upside. Where at the minute, we're in pullback structure. We can see what happened here with pullbacks. We never really saw a huge bearish candle reject. Similar to what happened over here, we just had pullbacks, no big wicks to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm seeing, are we actually going to reject and actually see a significant higher time frame pullback? As for GU is an interesting one, because we did close bearish and we did fail at this liquidity again. And obviously, I'm now eyeing this up because we swept previous weekly high. Obviously, that was previous monthly high as well. What we saw was this candle was so big. We saw like a 270, 300 pip candle. Price, we pulled back half of it. We still didn't really close that big. It was a 70 pip bearish close. It was nice, don't get me wrong, but again, I'm not seeing a rejection here. One thing I'm eyeing up and I'm keeping in mind, and this is what you've got to do, even if you are bullish. I'm still bullish on GU. One thing that would stop me being bullish is probably seen another weekly candle have an issue at this liquidity, and I know that this fill did not. If we were to mark this up in red, we can see that it did not fill. This is significant because if there is resting liquidity below this low, we could easily pull back and fill that because we saw the fills there, then we got continuations. At the minute, we need to see further continuations. We could eventually, if we do fail to respect this area, we could also come back into this low around 131. I'm eyeing all these things up going into the rest of the month, keeping all that in mind. But I am still bullish. We obviously had the trade in from last week. I said I ain't closing out my position, so I'm still waiting for that to be invalidated to an extent. So let's go into the week. I'm not setting any trades up. What do I want to see? I want to see GU close above this lower high to play up to the high. That would be a daily confirmation for me. Otherwise, I'll sit out and wait to see that. So as we come into the week, we see Monday. Huge pullback, tag me into my higher time frame. So we're in EU now. This position did go into a bit of drawdown. Obviously not an ideal way to start the week. Why it wasn't, because we actually created an order block here. And if we do end up leaving something around here, price could do this and then do this because it's creating imbalances. But it did pull back, which was nice. It tagged us in. GU come down, tapped into this daily again. One thing I've noticed, and it's probably just a standard procedure with the way I trade, is when you're starting to see multiple taps into these areas, it does start to signify, is this area weak? One thing I was looking at, as soon as Monday come down, I was like, right, we're going to have to at least take out this low. We might fill and then continue up. That's really my last hope for this trade to be valid. But we did not see price run and close in this on Monday, so we're still waiting for that. Tuesday, so we did do the imbalance fill here. So what you're going to see here when you're doing this is if we're doing that, it's an interesting one because you want to see the next day really start to head down. If we don't and we start to consolidate around here, once again, like we've been seeing previously with these pullbacks, is we did the fills and then we struggled and then we carried on. Again here, you know, we had a fair value gap in here. We invalidated it. We then pushed down. Then we broke this one again and then we continued down. There is no imbalances, and that's the thing. When you get a confirmation there at the lows, you have nothing in the way to stop you going up, and that's why it just went up overall. But at the minute, we obviously want to see what the next day does. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday did nothing again. We tapped into that area again. That's the weekly FVG. So yeah, not really suggesting strong momentum to the downside, and that is confirmed by the fact we're not seeing big candles closing bearish with wicks to the upside, rejecting the upside as we go on to GU on Wednesday. So yeah, we were wicked out there for 1 pip. One thing I want to talk about here is how do you deal with the fact you got stopped out? And obviously at this point you can see how price started moving, but we did push up 100 pips from getting stopped out, and you can see how this played out. How do people deal with potentially getting stopped out here and seeing price run up, what, 100 pips? Quite frankly, your trade is your trade. As soon as you're stopped out, your trade was wrong. Don't think about, oh, I got stopped out by a pip and it ran to TP, whatever. You can't have that mindset. You have to have the mindset that you were wrong because of the way you had your stop loss. It was based on a certain criteria that your strategy was deemed off. You cannot go back through this and go, oh, I got stopped out by a pip. What would I do next time? I'd put my stop loss 1 or 2 pips lower. You don't know where the wick's going to be. Where's that low of the week going to be? You have no idea. So that's your stop loss there. She got hit. You know, that is the strategy. I don't have any feelings towards that. How I thought about it is I understood what the tariff things meant. We probably would get a bit of dollar strength coming in after all of that weakness, but I still took the trade based on the strategy because I can't make up, is that going to win or not? And that's the important thing, is when you're going into the week, you've really just got to take the trades. What I had for 4 weeks, 5 weeks was just winners on GU. So what point are you going to lose? As I say it all the time, every time I take a win, especially once it's like 3 or 4 wins on the same pair, I know that a loss is coming. I shouldn't be surprised that a loss is coming. I don't get overconfident. I don't push the limits of my risk based on me winning positions. Therefore, the next trade is even higher chance for a win. No. So yeah, easy. Just take a loss. No confirm for buys. What do I want to see for a buy confirm? Well, this week I want to see a price close above this, breaking lower high, confirming that we can come up to the highs. But no, you know, we're seeing very, very weak candles pushing down. If we do break this daily, obviously it's a higher chance we'll come deeper. We've got to remember though, on GU at least, we're still in this daily leg. So we're still just about coming back into discount. We have a lot of areas to still see price reject from down here to go up. And if we don't see a lot of strength here and eventually we get a big bullish candle, we could see that movement. But as for the week close here, GU's looking a bit more bearish. Again, based on what I'm seeing here, there is no confirms for me for selling yet, so I'm still sitting out. I will still wait to see if price can have a big failure here and maybe get a squeeze up. But at the minute, seeing 2 weekly candles close bearish, there potentially is signs that we're slowing down. But it even comes back to, you know, if you're looking on the 4 hour, you see the significant push up that broke these highs here was coming from this low. So we could easily pull back into these areas here, because you could see when we're talking about law of effort, how quickly did it take for the move to go up for this high? 3 days. And how long are we seeing the pullback from the high? You could really say around this area, it's already been 10. And you can see that where's the momentum? The momentum's still to the upside at the minute. Therefore, I'm sitting out. As for EU, what do we do for the rest of the week? We have come down. So we did see price run up yesterday and then fail. We tapped into this daily. We've now filled this daily again. So again, the daily here is weak. And when this daily becomes weak, it's a higher chance for me to get stopped out. I'm only about, we put this entry where I got tagged in. We're only about 10 pips from getting stopped out, 15 pips. So yeah, probably expecting EU to lose as well. But we know, again, coming to the daily leg, it's really big. Still, the weekly, okay, it's closing bearish. It potentially is engulfing. I still, because of where we're at and because I'm targeting this liquidity up here, I will still not be looking for sales next week. In fact, I will still be eyeing up the weekly fill for more buys. I just want to simplify the way I trade so much that I don't even have to question what I'm looking for. It doesn't matter what it looks like, it's what the strategy is based off. And for many traders, they like a bit more fluidity. I've tried having more fluidity, but I like the strict rules. I don't have to think. There's obviously certain circumstances where I can change things, but the 90-80% of the strategy is the strategy. The 10%, 20% fluidity helps at certain periods where it can be quite confusing. You have to make a decision based on, but really you don't have to overcomplicate it. You know, we're still seeing big candles to the upside. We may be getting the first bearish engulfing candle in a very, very long time. So we have to keep that in mind. Probably from this area here in March. It's the first time since then we've actually seen a bearish engulfing candle. If we do come down to finish this week, if we do pull back to finish this week, then obviously it won't be looking like that. But yeah, that's the week wrapped up. We'll have a look at the accounts. We can obviously see that. So on FTMO accounts, I'm down 0.9 because I'll do is 0.9 on this now on the funded, and then we're down 0.5 on the other one. So between them two, it's around 0.75 of risk on the funded. We are down as well here. We're down about 1.1% because we're still in 0.75% EU. We closed out the 0.75% GU loss, so that'll be down 1.5% if we do lose. As for funded next, we're down 1.5% on the equity, obviously risking 0.75 on the funded, and then we're overall back at 95. I took 1% risk on both of the challenge accounts because coming to some months, want to take it slow, not really worried about challenges anymore. They're just in the background. So on Think Capital here, one thing I want to talk about again, because I just want to talk about everything that I do, the way I think, because I feel like there's a lot of value to be had there, is I was going to win. If GU won from last week, this would have been passed. Phase 1 would have been through, and obviously it didn't win. So coming into this week, I did not set EU on this account. When GU lost, EU was still around entry, but I didn't take the entry. Why? Because I get too caught up in where price is with the entry. For example, we take a GU loss, and we're floating around the entry here. You can see that. We're in a bit of profit. I'm not going to take the trade and chase the trade. Yes, it's still a valid entry on EU. Yes, we could be around entry, but I am happy sitting out, waiting for the week to play out. I'm not going to take an extra position based on the fact I just want to pass a challenge, because every time I feel a bit anxious with setting an extra position when a position's already there to be passed. But I think that's where I just know myself. If I'm feeling a little bit anxious with setting a position, it doesn't feel right, it's not at the entry, and I would have already been tagged in the position, I'm not going to chase the trade, because to me, that's how I view it. I view it as I'm chasing a move. What does that mean for other things in my trading? Well, it doesn't really go well for me. So I'm happy sitting out on that. This will just be sitting there until next week. We're still at 5%, so we're only 5% off passing. It's still in a good position, but I ain't chasing moves and going into the rest of this week with EU. And obviously, it's going to end up losing probably, so did a good job to not take that, but that's how I like to do it. Some traders want to get back in. I'm really happy sitting out with it. There is no rush in my eyes. And then we took a loss on E8 there. We took 1% loss, and we do have the other trade that we're still sitting out on EU. So that's really the month so far. Yeah, and again, this is the thing. Two weeks into the month, I took 2 trades. Yep, they're probably both going to be losses. But that's the thing. How do I deal with my trading? Well, I know in a month where I might only take 1 win, which could be this month, or I might take 2 wins, even if I take no wins, as long as I don't take many losses, I am able to go into the next month, and if I have a good month, it covers the loser month. I don't even try and aim for a profitable month anymore, because I know that some months they don't go well. It's fine. Make sure when the months are good, you capitalise. That's my overall strategy, to be profitable. I like that, because people are getting too caught up when you have no control over the market. Is that a winning month? How do I deal with having a losing month? And it's like, well, just have a losing month and continue to trade the way you do. If you're a good trader, you don't have maybe 5+R losing months. It doesn't matter, because the winning months will be more than 5R and you'll be fine. So yeah, we might not take another trade for the rest of the month. 2R for the month, even if I take a few more losses. I know the last few months have been good, so that covers it. But going into overall Q3 and Q4, I've got loads of trades left, so there's no stress about it. And yeah, okay, the stress comes sometimes within going into drawdown you're funded, or going into drawdown on your challenge. But it's all part of the game. When you realise everything's part of the game, you cannot escape any one area of your trading, on a prop firm especially, then you don't worry about it anymore, and it's just a part of the game. And it simply is just what it is. There is no good or bad. You are just trading bad market conditions, then you're trading good market conditions. And when you realise you don't have control, and you take the control out of your hands, you'll start doing well. I promise you that. So really good week. I'm happy with the trades. I've followed my plan, and I will continue to do that. I'm really going to next week. We'll see what we do. But yeah, will we get some dollar strength back in? We'll have to wait and see. Take care, guys. See you in the next one. Peace out.